All right, everybody. So I lost my feed a little bit ago and I had to go off for a bit. So I apologize. Thank you to, so I think somebody bought me a smiling heart. So I had to walk a little bit away from the White House. I think that when I'm too close to the White House, my cell phone service goes a little wonky. So I have walked a little bit away from the White House and I'm going to head down to the Capitol and towards Union Station in a few, but I wanted to take just a second, since we're here. Little kids walking by, going by, rolling by, and we'll show you. Well, I'm going to show you something in a moment, just as soon as I figure out. There it is. Can't make it easy, can they? Here we go. So we're at the World War I Memorial, right here. It's just very pretty. And right up there, you see that is the Treasury building, which is right on the, it's right next to the White House. The White House is just beyond that building. Right here is the Willard Hotel, an old hotel. The original Willard, that's obviously not the original Willard, but very pretty. Big, that might be the original Willard. I don't know. It's the Willard Intercontinental. So, thank you very much, Enchantbot. I appreciate it. I'm going to go down there in a little bit. Apparently, they are still there at Union Station, but they have been moved a little bit. We'll find out, and we'll talk to them. Get the scoop. But we are on a walk. But first, I just kind of wanted to take a second and show you guys, because a lot of people don't even know that this exists, that there is an actual World War I memorial. And, you know, it's got this pool around the outside, and then it has this sort of raised, you know, this kind of wet, it is technically a pool, but it's just got a very thin layer of water on it. And then there's a relief of World War I soldiers. So that is the World War I Memorial, not super well known, right next to the White House. All right, so we're gonna head up here. And we're heading, so what we've been doing today is checking out the situation with, you know, occupation, federal troops, that sort of thing. I'm gonna take one more second so you see a few more people in here, and a lot of people don't know that this exists, and I think it's very pretty. This is the World War I Memorial. That is the Treasury building, and right on the other side of it is the White House. If you guys wouldn't mind tapping the screen, we'll get some people in here. We gotta get some likes so people will come in. And I do apologize if anybody was here before. When I dipped out, I lost my connection, and I had to walk a couple of blocks away from the White House to get connected again. I don't know what the deal is, but there is kind of bad connection right around the White House. There are some areas around here that have bad connection. You know, they've always said, people always say that your cell phone service is blocked near those buildings, but I don't want to go that far because it does work. It just kind of blinks in and out. So I don't know. I don't know what the deal is. This is Pershing Square. You will hear a lot. Things go on in Pershing Square. So whenever you hear about Pershing Square, that is where we are right here. Right next to the White House, next to the Treasury, across from the Willard Hotel. It wasn't busy, but it wasn't empty. It wasn't dead. And as usual, I am posting all of my lives onto YouTube when I'm done. It just takes a little while because I got to go home and download it and everything. But DC is relatively quiet. I will say quieter than usual. Someone did point out that school just started, so that's a factor as well. But it is definitely a little quiet. It is gorgeous out, so it would normally be packed, and it's not packed. I mean, like, packed. You have no idea how packed it gets. This right here is the Wilson Building. This is Washington, D.C.'s City Hall. And you can't see it yet, but we will in a moment. We are kind of in the middle of Pennsylvania Avenue. So at one end of it, right behind me, is the White House, and at the other end of it is the Capitol. So we're going to walk over in a second. We will be walking straight towards the Capitol, but I got to get around the square first. And this is, you can see, so these are federal buildings, and the roofs of them all are terracotta. And what's interesting about that is that from the top, from the sky, if you look from overhead on Google Maps or something, you will see a giant red triangle, which is called the Federal Triangle. These terracotta roofs make up the Federal Triangle, and it's all those terracotta tiles. I actually had to take a class on the classical elements in all of these buildings when I was in undergrad. All of the, you know, Roman and Greek elements of those buildings. I was a Greek and Latin major, so I had to study that sort of stuff. I think they are flying half-staff because of that. I noticed that the federal buildings that are flying half-staff. You'll notice they're up on top, that's just the private building, some sort of office building, and it has its flags all the way up. So, but that right there is DC government. That's the Wilson building. Out front, there's a big sign that says DC residents, federal tax dollars, something or other. Hold on, I'll tell you the rest of it in a second, because of course we do not have representation in Congress, which means our federal taxes paid. There we go, DC residents, federal taxes paid. We do not get representation in exchange for those taxes, and it had a number, but it's kind of rotating in and out. Anyway, that number will come back in a minute. So that is DC City Council. This square is usually full of skateboarders. It's like a very popular spot for skateboarders. Yeah, the Federal Triangle, it's kind of a cool little detail. Okay, there's the number. Looks like either 5,702,843,000, no. 5,702,843,000, I can't tell. But that's how much federal taxes are spent out of DC in exchange for nothing. Well, no federal representation. All right. So if you guys wouldn't mind hitting the like, oh, we were very low. Yeah, hit the like button for me. We'll get some numbers up in here. So anyway, yeah, there's National Theater. Right back there, you can sort of see the last little corner of the Treasury building behind me on Pennsylvania Avenue, and right behind it, anything you see is probably White House. Well, the lower stuff anyway. So that's that, and then Pennsylvania Avenue in the other direction will bring us to the Capitol, which is where we're headed. We're headed to Union Station, but that's right next to the Capitol, so we'll probably do a loop around the Capitol on our way there. My goal here, aside from taking a nice walk on a really nice day, is to show you what's going on in Washington, D.C. and what it really looks like. And I'm also documenting it all, putting it all up on YouTube, all these lives up on YouTube, because there are actually people who are getting a lot of views arguing that some of the things that I have put up on video have not really happened. So I went ahead and took a couple of clips just to demonstrate them, but it's not going to help, of course. Can't be blinded by evidence. But I'm kind of glad I have video over several days showing changes and things. And I have it all posted. That right there is the old post office, which was briefly a Trump hotel. One of the best kept secrets in Washington is that you can go up that bell tower and get this amazing view of the city, and there is never anyone in line for it. It is owned by the Federal Park Service, so even during, even when it was owned by Donald Trump, the Federal Park Service still had control over it. And you'd go in this little door in the back. There was never anybody there. All right, we're gonna try this. Hopefully I don't regret this. We're just gonna walk down this way because the view's better. Hopefully I don't get hit by a bike. But that bell tower has a great view. And now it is owned by a different, as Waldorf Astoria, yeah, hotel. This is either a really good idea or a really bad idea walking down the middle of the street here. But this is Pennsylvania Avenue, sometimes called America's Main Street. Have a little post office there. But this was the post office, the old post office, and then I think it expanded into the building next door, apparently. Let's make sure nobody's coming behind me. I'll let these guys have some room. And there we go. Heading towards the Capitol. But one thing that I do want to point out, and this is not a judgment, but just for the record, is that in this area, there are not federal, a particularly high federal presence, and I'm not seeing anyone in uniform, military. So, add that to your databanks. They do seem to be concentrated in those very specific areas around town where they've decided to concentrate. Something is happening on the mall. Oh boy, guys. You know what? We're going to take a side trip. I think you should see the mall. I think that's probably important. So we're going to walk down that way and take that way. Instead of taking Pennsylvania Avenue, we're going to take the mall to the Capitol building, because my guess is that there will be some military presence on the mall, and we will see that. Pardon me. And hopefully nothing, I keep my cell phone service through these buildings. These are tall. So this, I guess, is the EPA here. Big, beautiful courtyard in the middle, looks like. We are walking through the middle of the EPA. And you can see it's kind of got like an arched area. Yeah, the mall is definitely not an unsafe part of DC. It's probably the safest place to go in town, but it is if your goal is to have the military presence be seen, then it is probably the best place to do that, or one of the better places. There's the front of the EPA. It's a big, looks like a palace or something. Well, maybe a little more imposing, but it's got that big entryway, and it looks like there's another one built behind it. That's the IRS, right across the street. These buildings, a lot of them were built right after the Chicago World's Fair, or at least they were put into the design phase right after the Chicago World's Fair. And during the Chicago World's Fair, there was this huge thing. They built all of these Greek and Roman revival buildings. And so there was just this big nationwide fervor for Greek and Roman revival. And so when they went into the design phase of the Federal Triangle and a lot of these buildings, that was what was really popular. And so they did the design phase of the Federal Triangle and a lot of these buildings, that was what was really popular. And so they build all of these buildings in Greek and Roman revival styles. The problem is that a few years later, by the time they got to the building phase, it had become very unpopular. And people hated it. Let's see here. Try not to get run over. But it is why the buildings that all came out of that sort of era, and here's the other entryway into the back of the EPA, all kind of have that Greco-Roman look to them. But there is sort of this, so you have to look at these giant heads on the sides of the building. But as I said earlier, I studied a lot of these. I had to take a class on the classical architecture of Washington, D.C. And we walked around and looked at these buildings as part of the class. and would see that a lot of what they did was take some of these classical elements and adapt them for America. So there's a lot of columns that will have corn up at the top instead of acanthus leaves, that sort of thing. Kind of an interesting little tidbit. All right, would you guys tap like for me, share the live, get this out there. We'll get some people in here. That class was so cool. I still have the book for it, which actually was more general. It wasn't really specifically about the city. It was more about the roots of classical education in general, but still a great book. Here we have, I want to say, yes, that is the Natural History Museum. I interned there in undergrad. Up on that side of the building, the office I worked in was on that side of the building on the top floor, and so I had a great view. But I was only there, 1 day a week for a couple hours a day, but it's still pretty cool. All right, we are heading up to the mall. I don't know what this giant tent is, but it's not always there, but things just sometimes get set up on the mall, so it might just be something for Labor Day, or who knows? Could be anything. But it did seem like if we were going to do this, showing you guys what was going on the mall was probably worth looking at. Yeah, so there will be, I think, a lot of let's say First Amendment activity over the next few days. It appears, having done a lot of walking around today with this phone or with this camera, that today isn't it. I have not seen a lot protest-wise today. I think maybe tomorrow or Monday is going to be the day, and people are saving up their paper signs. I don't know. But I could be very wrong. I might get up here and find out that the mall is abuzz and I have just been missing stuff all day. That would not be the first time that happened. Yeah, I think a lot of the music festivals, in quotations, are scheduled for Monday. I thought there would be a little bit more than I saw today, just in general. Even when I went to the White House, I only saw about 2 signs. And unfortunately, I lost connection over there, so. Let's see. So it turns out this giant tent that I came up, that reminded me I should come up here, appears to be empty. There we go. Hi. Sorry, hello. We're live.
I had a quick question for you.
Okay. Let's see. We're going to let this guy go by. Thank you. Okay, so we are down on the National Mall. Okay, so there is an event here in this tent. It's just not a very popular one. So, I see, yeah, maybe some sort of a religious revival. But there's only a few people in there, so. Okay. Oh, here we go. Okay, so there's some military. So, we have military. We are definitely seeing that they are packing heavily. Much different than what I saw over in DuPont Circle. Everybody has a big piece of metal here. So, that is a different situation than what I saw in DuPont. I can't quite read, guys. Sorry, it's a little dark. Hi, guys. Everybody wave. So that's that. There's the Capitol. There's a couple more guys over there. And I don't see anybody else. So we have that group that just walked by. But that was a big group. That was probably the biggest group I've seen marching together the whole time I've been here. Intentionally, anyway. You know, I saw earlier today, you know, there were two groups. One was 3, one was 4, and they briefly met up and said hello. But looking at walking, okay, and here's another big group. So this is a much heavier presence here on the National Mall. Much heavier presence. Now these guys don't. A couple of them have the big metal pieces. Not as big. Not those guys all had them. This is a little different. So we'll go and we'll wave. Hi guys. And so that's 2 big groups just in a minute or so, which does not mean that they're, you know, let's not try to make conclusions from that. I might have just walked up at an opportune moment. But that is certainly a bigger presence than I've seen elsewhere in town. The goat on the National Mall. So I don't know about a goat on the National Mall. So here is another one. Just one person, it looks like. Yep, there we go. There's 3 of them standing over here. We are definitely more of a presence here than anywhere else. Now, this is an entrance to the metro station, so maybe sitting by the entrance to the metro.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
There's the metro entrance. We got these guys standing here. Hello. Hi, guys. And then all right. So that is where we are right now. Hold on 1 second. Sorry, guys. Okay. Now, one thing I will note is that unlike what I saw over at Union Station, where all of the food trucks were gone, and I thought that was kind of weird and noticeable. There are food trucks here, there are still people here. This is not as dead as it's been, but it's not as, for a Saturday on a long weekend when the weather is absolutely immaculate, I should not be able to walk through here. There's people here, but not a lot. This is definitely not what I would call a lot of people for the mall. For those of you, oh, okay, everybody's kind of clumped up over there now. For those of you who don't know, there's the Lincoln back there, Washington in the middle. That's I want to say about about 15th Street, about 22nd, something like that. So there's a few blocks between those, and the reflecting pool is between them, as well as the World War II Memorial, and the Washington Monument is up on top of a big grassy hill that is quite big. So it looks like it's all kind of close together, but it's pretty far apart when you're over there. And so I can't go down into the metro or I will lose service, unfortunately. But I'm trying to decide, you know, my intention was to get over to Union Station, but trying to decide whether to walk over to the Washington Monument and just see what's happening there. I'm going to ask if anybody wants to see if I get a response in the next. I can do either. It just takes take me a few minutes to walk over there, and then we can turn around and go back. But I just thought it should be very packed. I'm surprised that it is this quiet. Okay, all right. I hear go to the Washington Monument. Oh, we're doing it. we will go make that loop. If anybody wouldn't mind tapping the screen a couple times, I would appreciate it. Sharing and all that stuff. If anybody wants to subscribe, that would also be awesome. Could use some subscriptions. Getting to the end of the month, things are getting expensive. I heard about the vets at Union Station, so that's where we're going to head. That's where we're eventually headed, is we're going to go down and look. They are apparently still there in the area. Station, so that's where we're going to head. That's where we're eventually headed, is we're going to go down and look. They are apparently still there in the area. They're just back a little bit, so we're going to go over and find out what happened. But first, we're just going to do this little loop, and then we'll walk back over to the Capitol, and Union Station's right next to the Capitol. I cannot imagine that so here's what I'm thinking. If someone asked them to move and had a very, very darn good reason for it, even if it was something administrative, then I could see them moving nicely. If someone forced them to move due to a First Amendment questionable push, with the attorneys that they have there and their general demeanor, I don't see them taking that lightly. So my guess is if they moved, they did it because there was a good reason. But I am just guessing. We're going to find out. We're going to find out. Oh, they're using another protest org until Tuesday. Okay, so yeah, we'll go find out what the story is. Like I said, that is just a guess, but I just can't imagine somebody coming through and saying, you can't be here anymore, even though you have a permit, and them saying, oh, okay, and just moving nicely. They don't strike me like they would take that very, very well. Okay, now it might have been, a permit issue that was legitimate and had a, hey, we just need you to refile something. And they were like, okay. Again, if it came through reasonably, then maybe it was fine. If anybody can see off to the right, there are some taller buildings, and that is across the river in Virginia. We have height restrictions here in Washington, and so right across the river is where all the tall buildings are. And they may not look that tall from here, but they are twice the size of the buildings in DC. So close to the building. Okay, well. Like I said, they have, I know they have at least one attorney there. Ooh, somebody lost their car key. That's not going to be good. There's not even really a place to put it. They'll fix on Tuesday, okay. Yeah, that's not fence. I'm not sure why the fence is really even what it's supposed to be doing, but who knows? And that the other thing is that the national airport is sort of right behind over there, so that's where the planes take off. They go right over the river. There is a big river right behind the Lincoln Memorial. Okay, so I'm looking. Tell you what, I'm gonna stop for a second.
At first I was like, you've got to be kidding me. Like, I've got 3 days of this. Like, it was actually...
Well, interestingly, there must be some sort of convention going on. Because a large group of people wearing priest collars just walked by. The weather is it is so incredibly nice out right now, you guys. I am not complaining. This was also glad to be sharing the information, but it's also, you know, wouldn't have been quite as easy to do if it had been pouring down rain. I don't know. Ignore my God-given rights as a DC resident and actually walk down to the crosswalk, because it seems like a good idea. Well, thank you for the rose. But I'll let you guys look at that while we're walking. What I'm trying to see over here is what the presence is like. Now, one thing that I have noticed is that, and it might just be a matter of uniforms that I'm not seeing, I am seeing, you know, the military presence around. But as far as actual police presence, federal agent presence, oh, thank you, Blue Horizon. I'm seeing the most of the agency presence that I have seen has been the agencies that are normally are where they're supposed to be. Now, the thing is that I know that that's not the only thing happening in town, but I am not in the neighborhoods where they have been kind of out of their normal spot. And a lot of those areas require a car to get to. Like, they've been setting up roadblocks and stopping cars. And some of you may know my car shenanigans, but end result, I don't have the ability to drive right now, so now, one of the problems with filming at the Washington Monument is that it is, if you've never been here, it is a lot taller than you think. Getting it all into one shot is difficult. There's African American history, which is really interesting, and most of the museum is underground. It goes down, when you start, you go down like 3 stories into the basement and then walk your way back up. It's a really cool museum. Let's see. Let's see. So, all the flags here are still at half mast for the Minnesota situation. I am still not a hike, but you know, a few minutes away from the monument, and it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and I'm running out of room to squeeze it into a camera shot. But again, really what I'm trying to see is whether there are federal agencies, that sort of thing. One of the kind of interesting things about what's going on over here, by the way, you'll notice that there is this, well, you may notice that there is a really significant hill. And there's actually a series of hills built all throughout the mall that look like they're just normal hills, but they are actually part of a kind of hidden levee system that is designed to protect the city from flooding. And when we have flood situations, there are a couple system that is designed to protect the city from flooding. And when we have flood situations, there are a couple of points where the levee is back down at ground level, particularly near streets, and they have giant barriers that they can use to close off those areas during a flood. So, but these hills are part of the, what look like a natural part of the levee, but are actually installed to create this levee system. So I am walking around the monument, I don't see, there doesn't seem to be any sort of, well, I'm still kind of a ways away. Lots of people, still not, I mean, like I said, this looks like a Wednesday in October. Group, number of people wise. Not Labor Day weekend. We got a stage set up over here. Looks like somebody's gonna be playing. They're setting up drums and stuff. Yeah, the levee system is really cool, and it was funny because I learned about it after living here for a very long time, and was almost angry that I didn't know. Like, how has this been right in front of my face and I didn't notice? And I walked down here and kind of walked around, and it's so obvious once you see it. But particularly, there are some spots where these sort of random walls stick out of the hills. And it's like, oh, that's what that wall's for. Part of a levee. How smart. All right, but it's getting harder and harder to get this whole thing into a scene, into a single shot. And we're just gonna see what's going on around the outside of the monument. And, I'm not seeing military, I'm not seeing agents, just, whoa, it is so tall, guys. No matter how many times I come here, which has been quite a few, especially, when you live here, you're always sort of a tour guide. No matter how many times I come here, I'm always shocked at how insanely tall this is. It almost makes me feel sick to look up. Like, it makes me a little nauseous. I'm gonna let this guy take a picture of his kids. So there is where are we? The reflecting pool. Just this side of the reflecting pool is the World War II Memorial, and on the other side is the Lincoln Memorial. The reflecting pool is about, 1.5 to 2 feet deep, and it's gross because there's lots of ducks in it doing what ducks do. All right, I don't see, I thought there might be a group of, military guys up here, but they are not. Let's see here. Oh my gosh. It makes me a little sick, yeah. Somebody's flying kites. But I will again say that this is always, this is never a place where, a lot of dangerous things happen. Oh, here we go. Okay, so the group of military is here. There they are. They're getting their picture taken with girls. I'm sorry, I didn't mean that to sound. They're just getting their picture taken. So. Okay. So there we are. And up. So just sort of standing there and getting their picture taken with people. Would you guys mind tapping the screen for me for a second? There we go. That was a bit of a line. Thank you very much. So, data point. We have another data point. All right. I'm gonna head back down. Actually, here, wait. Yeah. Yeah, I believe my understanding, I don't know if this is correct or not, but I was told that they're going to be sent home at 29 days to avoid paying them. Thank you very much. Thank you, Danette. Thank you twice. Thank you 3 times. What are those buildings you just scanned past? Let's see, was I over here? Over there? These are part of, you see the red tile roof here? I said this a little bit ago, but in the right next to kind of this area of town, all of the buildings, they're built in this Roman and Greco-Roman revival style. These are all federal buildings and they all have that red roof. So if you look at Google Maps, you'll see this giant red triangle next to the White House. And above the mall, and it's called the Federal Triangle. And it's so these will be, to all of the departments, EPA, Department of Agriculture, everybody's kind of in that area. Those are all the federal buildings. The flags are at half-mast because of Minnesota, the Minnesota situation. And if you look over here, you can see that's the White House peeking out there. That's the, let's see here, make sure I'm pointing the right spot. The old executive office building. Right there, right next to the White House. There's the White House in the middle. Where are we? Somewhere over there is the red. I think I'm pointing at the right things. Yeah, anyway, it's all kind of right around the White House. Yeah, the Minnesota situation, everything. I'm saying situation because I don't want to, flag the algorithm, but that's why. And there's Capitol over there, which is where we're going to head in a moment. But again, this looks like your average tourist group on like a Wednesday, but not a Saturday in the middle of summer, at the end of summer, on a long weekend. This is dead. This is a very quiet weekend. And then those buildings on the other side, that's Northern Virginia. That's Arlington, where the buildings don't have height restrictions, so they can be taller. All right. Well, I think that was an important data point. I'm glad we did that, but I'm going to head. Oh, and then this is the African American History Museum. And we are going to head toward the Capitol. Someday I will take you up to the Postal Tower. It's a little hard to do live during the walk, I think, because I worry about it blinking out and out, in and out. I'm at the Washington Monument right now, yes. And I'll do some shots back as we're leaving. I'm trying to multi-focus, focus on what we're seeing. There's the guys in the military again. We've got, pardon. Here we are, big, tall, giant obelisk. The Lincoln over there. But again, this is one of the few places where the military are present, and it is not what you would call a high crime area. Now, I don't know if you guys can see. It's probably a little hard. Let's see if I'm pointing at the right spot. Somewhere right over around there, I can't quite tell. There are these stone gate style things, and that is because that used to be a canal, and those were part of the canal structure way back in the day. And somewhere along here there are canal houses still. Right there, that little guy right there is an old canal house. But this was a canal at one point along the side of what's now the mall and is now Constitution Avenue. And there was one on either side, I think. Well, and you know, so we have discussions of you know, the appropriateness of these guys being there, being armed, taking pictures with their arms, and again, this is why I'm trying to present as much information as possible so that you guys can make decisions for yourself. See it all in real time. That sounds like a scam, so that guy's gonna go. Sorry. Guy offering sorry, guy offering people $5,000, but that's not real. Don't scam my viewers. Can you ditch the I am? Oh, is it? Okay. Is that what we were talking about? It is. It's very, you know, the malls are always very, very nice. Kept in pretty good shape. I've heard stories that it was not so well kept in the 80s or something, but it's, as long as I've been coming here and lived here, it's always been in pretty darn good shape. So.
It's your birthday tomorrow, it's not your birthday tonight.
Oh, got it. Okay, Carol, I see now. Yeah, I saw the scam and said, okay, you've got to go. You know what I really need, guys, if I'm going to keep doing this, is something that holds this camera to me. But then I won't be able to see what I'm looking at, I guess. No, it's fine. Good, thank you. Good looking out. I can't always look when I'm walking at what's going on, so sometimes I don't see it. So it's good. I just happened to catch that one, especially when the sun hits the screen. It's a little hard to do. A tripod would work, except that I've just been lately. I've been doing a lot of these walks. Also, just out of curiosity, guys, because I don't have the ability that I know of. You know, if I were doing this with my regular iPhone camera app, there would be what you call stabilization. Wouldn't be too bouncy, but I can't use those things when I'm using this app. So I don't know if it's, I hope it's not too bouncy. I'm trying my best to keep it. Whoop, let me get out of the way.
We're making a left, honey. This is where we came.
Make it run over. To not make it too bouncy, but it is a little hard, you know, as I'm walking. So hopefully it's not too bad. Okay, good. All right, so it may have some sort of a stabilization in it. All right, good. Okay. Now I'm gonna get us somewhere where we can see where we're going. There's some sort of a convention of priests going on. I've seen several big groups of people in priest clothing with, you know, the white collars. So, thank you, RJS. Thank you. We get very kind of used to the big groups of people. It is very important for me to see. Yeah. It's always funny when you see a convention come in where everyone wears the same thing, because all of a sudden the whole town will be covered in a particular uniform for a few days. It's similar to, you know, for a while, I don't know if it's still a big deal, but for just before COVID, there was this very popular series of adult kind of sports teams. Like it was like, you know, kickball leagues and but a bunch of different, you know, bocce leagues and all of these different leagues, but they were all kind of part of the same group. And so they would all get these t-shirts for their team. The t-shirts all looked the same, but in really bright colors. The games were all played around the same time. And so when the games all let out, all of a sudden the bars would get filled with people in the exact same t-shirt, but in a bunch of different colors. And I called them the Skittles, because suddenly the entire flavor of any place you were would change, and it would just be filled with all these people in all these brightly colored shirts. And it looked like somebody dumped a bag of Skittles in the middle of the bar. In all these brightly colored shirts. And it looked like somebody dumped a bag of Skittles in the middle of the bar. I'm going to try to walk down this path over here, because I think we'll be able to actually see the Capitol, at least give you guys some sense of where we are. But you can see it's the mall. Everybody's kind of, that's very difficult. It's one of the things that, you know, we keep going down to Union Station, and I keep saying that I'm a little surprised at how empty it is. There's been some response where people are like, why, you know, what else would it look like? And that's what it would look like. There are always people sitting, wherever there's grass, there's always picnickers. And they're definitely gone from Union Station. Thank you, I'm glad. I thought the Skittles thing, I don't know how to explain, but you know, you sit there, and the plate, you know, the bar would sort of have a vibe to it, and then all of a sudden the entire vibe would just shift, because a bunch of people, you know, who had just been playing a game, so their energy's up, but they're also kind of worn out, so they're whatever, and then they're thirsty, so they're drinking fast, and they just come running in like a tornado. Just would change the entire vibe, but it would happen all at once. And I was like, oh, here come the Skittles. So this right here is the American History Museum. All of these Smithsonians, for those of you who have never been here, the Smithsonians are awesome, and they're all free. So you can just walk into any of these museums for free. Oh, there's Department of Agriculture. That's a pretty building. But the museum, all of the Smithsonian museums are free, and they're not all on the mall. There's a few that aren't on the mall and are actually some of my favorites. I'm glad the Skittles I'm glad that landed. So next stop, for those of you who are just stopping in, we are heading, we're going to pass the Capitol and head over to Union Station to see what's going on with the veterans who are over there. And I've heard, you know, the word is that they have moved. We're going to find out why. But it's, you know, going to take a couple minutes. We got to walk to the Capitol there and then hang a Louie. In the meantime, we'll get to see the mall and we'll see what's happening here. You can sort of see, oh, just missed it. There's that old post office tower through the hole in the tree there. I don't want to move you guys too fast. I'm not trying to make you sick. Another live, not many people. Yeah, I am taking quite the stroll. I'm definitely getting my steps in today. I'm glad I put on my Apple Watch, because now I get credit for this number of miles that I'm walking. It is really very, there's a very specific feeling to waking up in the morning and not having a morning report to do. To just wake up and be like, oh, I don't have to run in and start checking the news and writing and shooting and all that stuff. So the funny thing is, we are back where we started. If anybody is still here from that time when we came up to the mall, I came up here because I saw this tent, and it reminded me that there was probably stuff worth seeing on the mall, and that there might be a military presence up here, and we should see what that looks like. And so we came up here, and there we go. There's one member of the military by himself. But we have seen, I think, probably the biggest presence I've seen anywhere, but also, you know, it's a lot of real estate here, I guess. But still, you know. I'm doing it 5 days a week, and that was the goal, is that I was going to do it Monday through Friday. The courts aren't open on Saturday, and there are a couple of people who file electronically over the weekend, but that gives me something to talk about on Monday. And actually this week, I'm going to do it on Tuesday, because I am taking Monday off. Nice timing, because this is my kind of 1 month anniversary of starting it. 64 square miles sounds about right. The original district was 100 square miles, and then we lost a chunk of it back to Virginia. So 64 seems about right. The longest side of the district is 10 miles. But it used to be a 10 mile by 10 mile diamond. There's a tree in the way, but we're walking by the Natural History Museum right now, which has a big, beautiful dome on top. I'll show you if I get a clear spot. Yeah, weekends are letting me regroup and yeah, keep my head on straight. This is the Smithsonian Castle, which was, you know, the original Smithsonian, and now is mostly just offices, I believe, but it's also just cool looking. Very neat building. And there's a free art gallery on that side, and then I think beyond that there's also the Sackler Gallery. Let's see. And then kind of sticking out over there is Air and Space, I think. It's the big round one over there, which apparently they just reopened their IMAX. I want to go see it. There, which apparently they just reopened their IMAX. I want to go see it. Oh, we have a shot of the dome here on top of the Natural History Museum. There we go. So there's the dome up there, and if you walk, there we go. So there's the dome up there, and if you walk in there, there's like one big open room right inside the door, and they've got big dinosaur bones and things. The castle is really cool. It's a little, I know it's a little dark against that bright sky, but ooh, whoops, see? So I gotta watch where I'm walking. Big crane. Oh yeah, the big crane. Who knows? Who knows? They're doing work on something. Oh, that might be part of the work they're doing on the Air and Space. And I know they were going to be fixing up the Air and Space, and for that, yeah, it was less of a trip and more of a, you know, the ground was a little bit lower for a second, so I dipped down a little. So on this side, I haven't seen any more. No, just people. I don't think it's part of the tidal. It's the wrong area for tidal basin. It's the Hirshhorn. That's what the sign says. So they're working on the Hirshhorn, which is one of the art galleries. Well, okay. There is a sign that says Hirshhorn. I don't know if that's what. I jumped to a conclusion there, which is never a good idea. But the tidal basin is over there. It's on the other side of the Washington Monument. So we were. It's kind of next to the Lincoln. I'm starting to wonder if I am wrong. I am, you know what? I am wrong, you guys. Because that building is the Hirshhorn, not Air and Space. That is the square one, I think, is Air and Space, and that round one is the Hirshhorn. So, I should know better. Where does the basin start? It is south of the mall, all the way over on the west end, like south of the Lincoln Memorial. So just the other end of the mall. I mean, it's in the grand scheme of things, it is not far, but when you're on foot, it's, you know, a good 20-minute walk. In a car, it would be just a couple of minutes. It's not that far. Okay. And there's the archives, I think, right through there, that little building right there. I think that's the archive. And that dome over there is the art gallery, National Gallery of Art, which means that right between this, right here, this area is the sculpture garden. So yeah, this, I mean, they're also probably doing work over there, but it's just different work. This one right here seems to be on the Hirshhorn. Oh, the sculpture garden's closed. I was gonna say maybe I'll just run through it real fast, but the garden's closed. So there's just this little garden here. It's full of sculptures, and it has this big fountain in the middle of it that I love, and they ice it over in the winter, and you can skate on it. It's not. Nope, the fountain's running. You can see the water in the middle. It's not closed, but that gate appears to be closed. So maybe one of the other gates is open. And then they have this little, you know, a little cafe in there, but they sell wine, which means you can go in, buy a glass of wine, and sit next to that giant fountain and stick your feet in it and drink your wine, and it is pretty awesome. Asking for donations to get them into heaven. Interesting. Okay. Well, you know, I'm not sure how donations are going to get them into heaven, but maybe that needle has a big eye in it. I'm sorry, I didn't. That was an inappropriate joke. Sorry, I couldn't help myself. That was... Okay. Woo. You know that from back there, the Capitol building doesn't look that far, but it is farther than it looks. You know that from back there, the Capitol building doesn't look that far, but it is farther than it looks. I'm doing my best to, while on, you know, on this, in this particular medium, I'm doing my best to do the, I'll be as objective as I can. But, you know, sometimes a little joke here and there. Okay. So I want to say one more time, I can't really stress this enough, that, you know, because one of, you know, part of the narrative of this whole thing has been that there's, you know, some of this has to do with crime in this area, and I absolutely cannot stress enough that there is this is no different than you would see on a normal day, other than the fact that I think on a Saturday this nice it would be a little quieter, or a little busier. It's a little quieter than usual, but it's not. I don't think there has not been any change as far as safety or crime. It is getting a little bit busier down on this end, which is nice to see. You know, we're all a little bit worried about nobody's showing up here anymore. Getting those steps in today, indeed. I knew it would take a while. I didn't know it would take quite this long, but that's all right.
I know you guys want to watch. I will be honest.
That's all right.
I know you guys want to watch. I will be honest.
No, I'll use a little exercise. There's the National Gallery of Art. There's the National Gallery of Art. Smithsonian has a few different art galleries, and they're all great, but the NGA is actually my least favorite because it's usually the busiest. Everybody knows about it. It's right here on the mall. The other ones are usually a lot quieter, which is kind of awesome. You can be sort of in there by yourself. I'm drinking some water. You can see my shadow. Definitely getting into the afternoon, my shadow has moved. Okay. Glad I brought water. Though I don't know if I can get it back into my bag with one arm. Let's see. I came out today, guys. I wasn't sure, what I was going to be doing. I brought all my stuff with me, but I also brought court cases to read because I was like, I'll see if I see anything worth doing, and then I'll take a couple hours, sit down and read. And now it's 4 hours later and we're still walking, but that's all right. Oh, we are going to head over to the Capitol building, and then we're going to cut north and head around to Union Station, where we will find out what's going on with the vets over there. Yeah, they're always good to bring water. There are a few, I think there are, well, I don't know. There are a few water fountains that sometimes work. They're touch and go. They're old, they're really old. They're kind of like old, they were clearly built in like the 60s or 50s, maybe earlier. But there are vendors during the day, but they're gonna charge you an arm and a leg. Bring water. Definitely bring water. Yeah, it is, but as a general rule, even though some of the stuff looks good, I tend to not get stuff from the vendors on the mall because they tend to be a lot more expensive. There is somewhere, I want to say it's over by Department of Agriculture, like on the south side of the mall, there is a hot dog vendor who supposedly makes the best, there's like whole things about him online that his hot dogs are just out of this world. I went and had one one day. It was a good hot dog. It didn't totally blow my mind. Out of this world. I went and had one day. It was a good hot dog. It didn't totally blow my mind, but and it wasn't ridiculously expensive. It was a hot dog, but as a general rule, and it wasn't ridiculously expensive. It was a hot dog, but as a general rule, a lot of the ice cream guys won't have their prices posted, and there's a reason for that, because you wouldn't buy it. So here we are coming up on the Capitol building. The final bit. People playing soccer in a dress. That's true. Yeah, you can get into the museums to get water, but just, you know, I think the point is make sure you stay hydrated and as much as possible be prepared for the prices.
I'm only putting these on because there's so much fun. And because dinner's at 6 and it's already 5 o'clock.
No, I'm happy to show around and yeah. Now, one of the interesting things is that since we left kind of that spot back there where the tent was, which was a ways back, I have not seen any military. So they seem to have been very focused in that middle area of the mall. There were a lot of them for a little bit and then nobody. Which is just another data point. It's a war zone indeed. You can hear the dog barking, that tiny little guard dogs. Okay. Oh my goodness, you guys. I'm gonna show you something. That's I don't know if you can see that. Can you guys see the big thing hanging on the side of? It says America's Workers First, which is, it says America's Workers First, and a giant picture of, so that's not something we normally see presidents do. All right, sorry about that, guys. Yeah, my phone overheated for a second. So, tell you what. Sorry about that. Let me know if you guys can, if whoever's left can see. There we go. All right, yeah, sorry, it's a long story, but had an overheat. I'm running one phone off of a hotspot from the other phone, and the other phone actually overheated in my bag. So all of a sudden I lost connection. Okay. So we're here. This is the big kind of pond in front of the... Yep, I'm back. 2 more weeks of summer. Yep. Had a little overheat. Phone overheated for a minute. So this is the, I guess, pond, duck pond in front of the Capitol building. So there's the Capitol, and a big duck pond and the big statues, and it's very pretty. We're going to be making our way around this little maze. Oh, how do you make your way around this little maze? Ah, there we go, there's an opening. So we can find our way over to Union Station. I don't know. I don't know if this is new or if this is... Sometimes there's stuff up here, sometimes there isn't. I don't know. I'm not really sure. I don't want to say it's new and be wrong. Doesn't look permanent. So one of the things that is important to note is that we are now, because we're now on the Capitol grounds, this is Congress's domain. So slightly different situation. Who can kind of dictate what happens where we are right now. There's a protest on 14th Street. Oh boy. Well, that's where I started this walk. So the veteran was released. All right, well, that's good. Well, we'll be over at Union Station in a second. We'll say hi to the guys over there. And at some point I am going to have to, well, stop for a minute, but so, one of the things that I think is important to note, guys, is that we're talking about this protest going on 14th Street, and I recommend probably going over and looking at that as well. But there's a lot of this is also happening at the same time. Only because a lot of these people probably don't know what's happening over there. I don't know, it's just kind of a counterpoint. I would look at, check that out. But it's one of those things where later today, the news is going to be shots of that, and that's going to be the story about what happened in DC today. And just remember, different things happened in DC today. Whoa. That's interesting. Huh. I don't know what that is. Yeah, most tourists aren't going to 14th Street. I just, what I'm trying to say is just watch the media narratives. Be aware of them. Part of me wants to walk over there, part of me wants to go get over to Union Station and see these guys, but I am a little bit curious about what that is, because it looks kind of like a roadblock. It probably is not, because I think I see tents, so it's more likely some sort of, who knows, it could be a food tasting or something, but yeah, it's some sort of a food tasting. Okay. I think I saw smoke rising out of what was probably a barbecue pit. But I thought, interesting. All right, we are headed around to Union Station. Here's the bell tower. very, very quiet. We're heading up Louisiana Avenue. There's the side of the station right in front of us. Okay. So we'll see what's happening with these tents in a minute. Let's see here. It's the downside of being on foot. I gotta, like, okay, let's get to the next spot, Brian. Hoof it. All right. Okay, we are coming up. This over here on the right is one of the Senate office buildings, I believe. Big fountain over there. Yeah. And we are coming up here. You've got these big, beautiful parks all around the Senate and the, well, in the House too, but mostly around the Senate. I think they kind of really big parks. It's just very nice, very quiet. Here's Teamsters headquarters. All right. Hey, Danette. All right. I gotta look. I can feel it in my face. I'm starting to look a little rough. After I have no idea how many miles I have walked at this point on this journey. Oh, there's a little pool here too, and both of these fountains on the side. Try not to get hit by a car. All right. Okay, I can see the tents. So some of the tents are still up, but there were about 3 tents all in a row, and I don't know whether they were, you know, different organizations. They all seem to be part of the same group. So I'm curious to find out exactly what happened. I heard that some of the tents may have been taken down. Yeah, at this point I'm definitely, this has become a journey. And I'm not actually that far from home anymore. I've made like this whole giant loop, but I think I'm gonna take public transit home. I think I've done enough walking. I am on mile 6, apparently. And part of that was not live, but most of it's been live. I just checked my Apple Watch. All right, so here we're coming up on the tent here, which is, I see 2 of the tents at least. So there were 3 tents. I can see 2. They're in a row, so it's a little hard to tell whether the third one is in the middle still or not. But we will find out in a moment what's going on with the protest tents. And I'm guessing, especially if there is a big protest going on over on 14th Street, it'll probably be kind of quiet here. This is odd. Why do they have the lights on? That's weird, huh? They have like a gas-powered generator running big lights for some reason. That's weird. All right. You know, when you're looking for things to be weird, you see more weird things, which I try to be aware of. You know, when I know there's some strangeness going on. Oh, there's an angry USMC vet over there, walking around over yonder, and we've got, there's a lot of people here. It's actually a fairly good crowd. We've got some, it looks like they've got a musician setting up on the thing here. And no, there's the third tent. So all 3 tents are still up. So here we go. There's 1 tent, 2 tents, 3 tents. I'm stopping to drink some water, sorry. Oh. And do we see Jolly? So we are back. 6 miles in.
So I don't mind, you know, $15.
Yeah, there is something. Something may have changed.
Yeah, he's okay, right?
There might be a little bit of a change here. I'm not sure. So there's
I've been told I need a guy to clean mast.
all right.
Almost daily, but I'm it's just it goes on and on and on. And I'm like, how dare I have a break? Dare I speak for myself?
I've lived here a while. Pretty
So I'll tell you what, guys. Organizationally, I am going, well, real fast, because I want to have this here. So we have, I've been cataloging this over time. We have, the flags are still at half-mast. It is Saturday before Labor Day. And we have, all 3 tents are still standing. And there's actually 4 tents now. So everybody's still here.
All right, guys. Like I said,
And I am going to end this live and start a new one in a minute, just because I'm going to put these up, and that last one, this is probably like 2 hours long, maybe 3 hours. That's all right. So I'm going to restart, if you don't mind, in a minute. And we'll go around and talk to people and catch up. All right. But I'm probably going to take a couple, maybe like 2 minutes, just to put my arms down and plug this in for a minute, make sure I got juice. So I'll be back in just a couple minutes. All right. Thank you all.